Hey guys, I wanted to get into a little bit of what you guys are going to be studying this week on Rome. So I thought I would go over some things with you personally, even though I've gone over them in notes, but I like to talk to you guys. So I want to talk about the history of Rome, and I did this a little bit with my kids, my hybrid kids, and that is to better understand the history of Rome. And very often people um, associate Rome with an empire as being an empire, and it was an important empire. But its history is actually broken down into two distinct periods. First, we have the Republic, and then we have the Empire. So, what you guys are going to be looking at this week is the Republic. So, the Republic, the dates are 509 BCE to 27 BCE, even though Rome itself existed earlier, all the way back to 753 BCE. But it became a republic in 509 when they overthrew a group called the Etruscans. And they decided that they no longer wanted to have a king, so they wanted to devise a form of government where the people would be the government. So a democracy. But it was a huge group of people. And unlike Athens, you really didn't have the ability to make decisions day by day from the citizens. So instead, they elected representatives. So a republic, which is what we have, is a representative democracy. And the word republic actually comes from a Latin term, res publica, which means public affairs. So for the longest period of time, almost 500 years, we were a republic, or Rome was a republic, until the assassination of a man I'm sure you've all heard of, Julius Caesar, on the Ides of March, as Shakespeare says, March 15th, 44 BCE. And after his assassination, a civil war ensues, which will last for several years. And eventually, out of all of that chaos of the Civil War, rises one man who will transfer us into an empire. So the dates of the empire are 27 BCE to 476 CE, and that's when we Rome becomes an empire with our first emperor, Augustus Caesar. So the emperor heads the government, senate, and assemblies become advisory. Our first emperor again is Caesar Augustus, whose original name was Octavian, who had inherited his uncle's estate, and he kind of used that to parlay himself into a position of power. The Roman Empire will officially end, and we'll be talking about this in the notes, when the western half of Rome, which includes the city of Rome, the Italian peninsula, falls to Germanic tribes in 476 CE, so about 1500 years ago. So just know that this first part that we're going to be talking about, we're looking strictly at the Republic. Okay. So to understand the Republic, you have to understand the social classes. And there were two main social classes in the Roman Republic: the patricians, who were the upper class, the nobility, the landowners. They only made up about 10% of the population, yet they had most of the power. They controlled the body of government called the Senate, and the Senate made all of the important decisions, how money was raised, etc. And so they really controlled just about everything until the lower classes, the plebeians, began to demand more rights. By the way, if you look at the word patrician, you should think of the word father as like head of the family, head of the government. Spanish word for father is padre. Latin for father is pater. The names Patrick and Patricia come from the word patricians. The term patriarchal, which is a father-headed society, comes from the word patricians. All right. Plebeians were the middle class, the commoners, and they make up the majority of the population. And these are the guys who make things run, right? They're the merchants, they're the traders, they are creating things. They're the farmers for the most part. So they're going to use those positions to begin to demand more rights and say in the government. So they're going to eventually gain more and more participation in the government, although the Senate kind of still remains the most powerful part. So let's look a little bit at the government. And it's very much set up like our own government. It has three branches: um, executive, legislative, and judicial. I don't show the judicial here, just the executive and the legislative. And part of what you're going to be doing is comparing their government to ours. So this is a little bit of introduction to you. The two men that ran the government on a day-to-day basis were called consuls, and they're equal to what the job our president does. They are the executors. They run the country. And these were two men who ruled simultaneously, but they only had 1-year terms, and that was to limit how much power they could have. And consuls in the beginning were appointed by the Senate, but eventually some plebeians will begin to serve as consuls as well. Again, the most important legislative body and really the most important governmental body in the Republic was the Senate. These were 300 members, again, landowners, and this was a hereditary position. So if the father dies, then the eldest son took over his position in the Senate. And again, they're really equal to our Senate in Congress, which is considered the more important of the two legislative bodies. And then finally, you had the assemblies. In the beginning, there was the Centuriate Assembly, just a main body of assembly. And then eventually another assembly is added called the Tribal Assembly to represent patricians. To represent plebeians. See, I get confused too. Again, it's a legislative branch and the numbers varied, but the most important thing to remember is that the assemblies really represented the needs of the plebeians, to give them more say in what happens in the government. So pay close attention to your notes as you go through them. I'm also giving you an ed puzzle that should help you, but you need to know these terms like patricians and plebeians and consuls, etc. So make sure that you know those well and email me if you need help. Again, a reminder that the semester ends on the 22nd. The work for this week, actually, I'll delay putting in the grade book for a little bit. So if you're behind, make sure you focus on any zeros that you have in grade book. And any missing work has to be to me by the 21st so that I have time to grade it before the report cards are pulled. All right, guys, be good. Bye-bye.